Hello, and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Ridley, and this is my kitchen, how I found it. We are going to be moving to a brand new country today. We're going to be doing a quick stop in Lebanon. And so from here on out, there's going to be a little bit of shift in pace for our dishes. Before, we've been spending an entire month in one country. From here on out, we're going to start accelerating that. So you may see just one or two dishes from a specific country, but we'll kind of do tours of areas and related cuisines so we can see how two countries that are right next to each other might influence each other on their cuisine and their different dishes. So for this one, we're going to be doing a traditional version of tabbouleh. And tabbouleh is kind of an herbaceous salad that's originally from the mountainous areas of Lebanon. It is going to be primarily based around parsley and a little bit of mint. And so these are just going to be sort of wild herbs that would have been available in the area and would have made the primary nutritious base of this salad. On top of that, we're going to be adding a little bit of green onion. For some texture, some cucumber. Now this I didn't find in all recipes, so you don't necessarily need to use cucumber, but I think it's going to add a little bit of an extra crunch into the middle of everything. Then we have some tomatoes, which are going to add just a really nice, ripe, juicy flavor. A little bit of acidity from some lemon juice, which will then be balanced with a little bit of olive oil to add a really nice kind of coating sensation and almost a dressing to everything. And then to finish it off, this was actually the ingredient I was least familiar with, which is called bulgar wheat. And it's a type of pre-cooked wheat product. But what I find really interesting is I have tried tabbouleh before. I haven't made it, and the one that I tried it was okay. But what I remember it being almost entirely this or quinoa. I'm not sure which one it was in the case I tried previously. But what I remember specifically is I felt like it was almost a pasta or a grain dish with a little bit of herbs. But a traditional tabbouleh is going to be almost entirely made out of the parsley and the mint with the vegetal components, and the wheat component was added later on, and so it's not part of an original traditional recipe, and definitely is not the main component. So if you see a tabbouleh where it's almost entirely quinoa or bulgar wheat, that is more of a couscous style salad than it is of a traditional tabbouleh. So to start it off, I'm going to be taking this with a little bit of water and then just mixing these together to rehydrate the bulgar wheat. I'm getting this started just to make sure that it has time to fully rehydrate. So I'm going to give a quick mix in to coat everything with the water, and then we'll set this aside to get it going for rehydration. Now, all the rest of this recipe is going to be just finely and thinly chopping all the ingredients to make a really nice mixable texture for everything. So I'm going to start with my parsley leaves because after I chop these, we want to add them to a strainer and rinse them to make sure that we get everything really nice and clean. So to start with, the steps that I've seen for dealing with herbs like this, especially if you want to do a fine chop, is to sort of gather them together into a little bundle and then fold the bundle as tight as you can into almost like a little tube like this. And then you can cut along that tube, and it's going to make almost a chiffonade or strips of the herb. And from there, you can go back across it the other way and really get a fine chop out of everything without having to worry about all of those loose leaves everywhere. So I am going to go through and do a nice fine chop through of all of the parsley. I'm going to get this into a mesh strainer here, and then I'm going to put that just over a bowl with some water in it to allow it to soak out and get into the impurities off of the leaves. So do this with your entire batch of parsley. This actually ended up being just about exactly one bunch for me. So I am going to just chop up the entire bunch, and then we will play around with a bit of the ratios as we start building the actual tabbouleh. Okay, parsley has been thoroughly chopped, and then I've got it thoroughly rinsed as well. So this is going to be our base, going to get it in a bowl. Next step is to do the exact same thing with our fresh mint. So I'm going to just wrap this up, get it chopped up nice and thin, and add it to our parsley mix that we've already got going. And that is our mint. So adding that in, next step is we're gonna do something very similar with all of our green onions. We will just slice these all up, thinly sliced. Of course, get rid of these roots first, and then set these aside so we can mix them in as we need. Cool, I was worried there was other things. That's literally it. It's just you finally chop them and add them to the parsley. And on this one, I don't have any particular tips or tricks for finely chopping green onions, so I will just go back over with a rocking chop like this and just try and get them into some smaller pieces, keep a visual look off what I'm chopping through, and try and cut through all of those large chunks or rounds of the white side. But then all of this gets mixed in with our parsley mix as well, and then we'll move on to the next step. Now, something I probably should have thought of before, but a fun tip and trick that I have seen for cutting boards sliding around like this is if you put a damp paper towel underneath, it helps add a lot more friction and prevents things from sliding, but I probably should have thought of that slightly in advance. Okay, so we've got some finely chopped green onions. All of this is going to get added into our parsley mix as well. And then we're going to move on to the tomatoes. Do the same thing with them, where we're just going to really nice and finely chop them and then mix them into our bowl. Now for chopping tomatoes, I think probably the best way for this one is going to be going through this way and getting them into some almost 1/4 inch long slices. Then you have the slices, you can go back through them lengthwise and cut them into strips. And then once you have your strips, you can turn one more time. Very careful with this one just because the tomato is a little more delicate and the knife doesn't have as much to bite onto, so I have had the knife try to slide a little bit during a cut, but get those cut in and mixed into our parsley mix. This is a salad, so pretty much what we're going to be doing here is cutting the ingredients to size, mixing them together with the olive oil and the lemon juice and a little bit of salt to make a dressing. But as far as flavor, this is where it comes from, is just the natural flavor of all of these herbs mixing together in a really fresh, and it should be almost like a crunchy, rich sort of, I don't know, summertime dish? I don't know when all of these things are in season, but it just reminds me of lush harvest time, I guess. All right, onions and tomatoes have been added into our mix. last step on this one is going to be cucumber. So exactly the same as with the tomato, we're just going to be cutting this into tiny little dices and adding it to the mix with everything else. All right, and that is our mixture. So I forgot the tools for it, but I think at this point it is just mix this together with the bulgur wheat, the oil, and the lemon juice, and theoretically we've got tabbouleh. So let me go grab some utensils and I'll be right back. All right, and then just like with any other salad, you just toss all the ingredients together. We'll add our oil in so that we can get that nice and mixed in, along with the bulgur wheat, which this is just kind of add a little bit of a nutty flavor to it and a little bit of that grain texture. But again, this should not be the primary ingredient in your tabbouleh, at least in a traditional one. It smells very fresh. It's interesting because usually in the cuisine that I'm used to, parsley is a garnish, but in this one, it's definitely gotta be a main flavor because it's an entire bunch of it. And then similarly, mint, mint is oftentimes just sort of a garnishing flavor, and in this case, it should be a really present flavor in everything. So I'm thinking this should be very cooling, very refreshing, and hopefully super tasty. Now, in the recipes that I was looking at, you can keep this very well in advance. So sometimes people will make this 2 or 3 days beforehand and just let it sit in the fridge. But as a note on that, all of them were saying that while it's sitting in the fridge, it will change color a little bit, and it will also sweat a lot. So you'll end up with liquid pooling in the bottom of it. Totally normal, totally okay. And last but not least, I'm gonna add a little bit of salt here, mix it in, and then I will leave the rest of the salt level to be adjusted per person, per serving, just so we can make sure that I don't oversalt anything. But this is gonna be our first one in this whole trip that doesn't require any cooking. This is tabbouleh. Let me plate some up for us to try and set this all up because we don't even need to go back to the stove this time. But yeah, I'll invite Bruce back over this side and we'll get some tasting in and see how it is. Okay, so here is our tabbouleh, which is, I guess, sort of like a parsley mint onion salad.
I mean, it's the most unique salad I've ever even seen, so...
Now, with this one, I kind of very, very lightly salted it, but it is salt to taste. So if you need more salt, feel free to add some more. But it should just be very crisp and refreshing and nutritious.
This feels like it would make more sense in a spoon.
I get the flavor. I get the flavor. The texture is so different from what I'm used to because the parsley...
It's so punchy. And
Yeah.
there's no real...
But not in an overwhelming way. No one thing is like wiping out the flavor for me.
The wheat is a little weird.
No, imagine it's almost all of it were that.
It's like tickling my throat.
A little bit more salt.
It's very refreshing.
It is. And it's got like the tanginess of the lemon.
That's probably my favorite part, is the lemon.
And then the crispness of everything else that's in here. But again, I think it's the texture of the parsley leaves. I think they're hardier or sturdier than regular, like what I'm used to with lettuce in a salad. And so it feels like it's a denser salad than I'm used to. But again, the flavors are balanced really well.
I actually really like the flavors. The only thing that I'm not crazy about is the wheat. It's the odd man out here for me.
So my version that I'd had before was mostly the wheat.
That
And then-
sounds not great.
And it also didn't have as much flavor to it because all of the flavor is coming from all of the herbs, and the mint is
Literally everything else.
Yes, it's all very important.
Literally everything else. I mean, it feels like the wheat is just there for like a texture thing. And I think that's like, I don't know, maybe breadcrumb, not croutons, but like, I don't know, breadcrumbs or something to thicken it up a little without, or maybe it just is not soft enough.
Now, other options of this are to use quinoa instead of the bulgur wheat. With quinoa, you can cook in advance, and it's going to be like you can cook it so that it is softer.
Okay.
And that's also a really great one because it's gluten free, so it doesn't have any wheat to it if somebody has that as a potential issue with celiac.
It's just very grainy. And it stands out. Not only texturally, but somewhat flavor-wise, too. I don't know. I just don't like how it mixes in. But all of it together is still really good.
Yeah,
as
and
a
the
salad.
flavor of it I think is spectacular.
Yeah.
I could see this accompanying other dishes really, really well.
Absolutely.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So this was a really cool, very different one because it didn't have any cooking involved, but at the same time, just a great blend of ingredients that has been incredibly well balanced, clearly over a long period of time, because if I were to take these things and try to mix them together, I would be really worried that the onion would punch through like crazy. The mint, I've had mint overwhelm things, and in here it just adds this almost cooling sensation to everything.
And there's so much of it, you would think it would, but it does not.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will be doing one more week in Lebanon next week, but then we'll be moving on to another country after that. So we will see you next time, and I think next one will actually include some cooking.
We'll see.
But if you do run across tabbouleh in a store, be on the lookout for the overuse of the quinoa and the bulgur wheat, because that seems to be our least favorite part of this, which is interesting because I was more worried about a lot of other things
Everything
that were
else.
going on in here.
Yeah, pretty much the actual herbs in this herb salad. All right. See you next time.
A little bit of extra salt also does really well.
I'm actually okay without it.
Okay.
I think I'm good with it.